As we're totally off grid, so we have no connection to any town electricity or anything like that, we've got to rely on our solar panels and our wind turbine. We do have a generator as a backup though, so we're just adding a new addition to our solar setup. So we're going to have a look at how to rewire that all up. Our loyal puppy Truffles embarks on a thrilling adventure as she chases the wild goat herd through the rugged terrain. When we first bought Chimney Creek Farm, I remember saying that I wanted a few goats to be able to milk them for my handmade soaps. This is not really what I had in mind. We've seen about 50 or 60 goats probably in the last few days roaming around the property. They're everywhere. So we're going to be rewiring our solar panels in parallel, not series. So for this project, we bought a brand new solar panel to add to the collection. My mum's also organised for us to get 4 more as well, so they're on the way. When we get the 4 new solar panels, we'll have a project of putting them all on the shed roof with some rails, so we'll have to get the rails first. But in the meantime, we'll just use these solar panels on the ground until that happens. So this black solar panel that gets folded up is an old solar panel that we used to use when we used to take the kids camping in remote areas. It worked fine for camping back then for what we needed, but at the moment we obviously need a lot more power. So we can't even turn on the toaster at the moment without the generator being on.
So what I've got to do is wire up these panels. So the black wire goes to the first panel, black wire, second panel black wire, third panel black wire, fourth panel black wire, which is your negative, and then go back the opposite way with the positive.
And so this is our wind turbine. It's not generating a lot of power and its bearings are gone, so we need a new one. So if you're not familiar with the difference, series wiring increases the voltage, while parallel wiring increases the output current, all while keeping the voltage constant. And for our needs, parallel wiring is the way to go.
For that side I need a female. For that side I need a female.
So rewiring solar panels from series to parallel involves changing the configuration of the electrical connections to the panels. And please keep in mind that working with solar panels can be dangerous. It's essential to follow the safety guidelines and consult with a professional electrician if you're unsure of the process. And before starting working on anything like this, you need to make sure that your solar panels are not connected to any charging controllers or batteries. So the first thing that we needed to do was unplug our Anderson plugs. So in a series configuration, basically the positive terminal of one panel is connected to the negative terminal of the next panel and so on. And then the final negative terminal and the first positive terminal are typically where the wires get attached to the source of power, like the battery or something like that. So Paul has cut the Anderson plugs off, and then we just need to cut and strip the wires. So you need to cut the existing wiring connections at the point where the Anderson plugs were connected. Then you need to strip a small section of the wire insulation on each wire end to prepare them for connecting to the new configuration. So in a parallel configuration, the positive terminals of all panels are connected together and the negative terminals are also connected together. So basically we're connecting all the positive terminals of all the panels to a single wire and all the negative terminals to another wire. So to prepare the wire to go into the Anderson plug, basically you need to cut the wire or strip the outer layer of the wire back about 2 centimeters. So the red tool that Paul was using before was the wire stripper or cutter. So once the wires are all exposed, then you just give them a bit of a twist to keep them all together. So now Paul's got the soldering iron out to prepare the ferrule to go on the end of the wire. So a ferrule is like a soft metal cap that's the wire goes into, and once the metal is soft, it sort of all gets crimped together, sort of like the end of your shoelace. So basically the ferrule just brings all the individual strands of the wire at the end into a firm contact with the terminal. So soldering is a joining process used to join different types of metals together by melting the solder. And solder is a metal alloy, usually made of tin and lead, which is melted using a hot iron. The iron is heated to high temperatures and then it cools to create a strong electrical bond. Understanding how to wire up an Anderson plug or an Anderson connector is a great skill to have. Not only for off-grid living, but also they use them all the time in the car industry, in the boating industry, and also in renewable energy. So basically the solder gets melted inside the ferrule and then the wire goes into that, and when it cools it just creates a strong soldered joint. So Paul's just trimming some heat shrink tubing, which is plastic sleeving that shrinks when it's heated and covers and protects the electrical wires. The heat shrink tubing can also protect the electrical wires from water damage, abrasion, and also fire. So you basically just slide the tubing onto the wire and apply the heat from, well, Paul's got the soldering iron, but you could use a heat gun or some other source, and you just heat the shrinking tubing so that it basically seals in tight around the wire. And so Paul's used the red and the black, so the black wire is the negative charge and the red wire is the positive charge. And so now the ferrule tipped wires are ready to go into the sockets of the Anderson plug. So Anderson plugs are designed to handle high currents efficiently. They also come in various sizes and configurations. They're designed for quick and easy connection and disconnection. And so when you get your ferrule tipped wire ends into the Anderson sockets, you need to hold them in place for a little while until the metal cools. So now that the Anderson plug is done, that cord or cable is going into the shed. Now this long black cable is going to be cut up into separate pieces, and it has both a positive and a negative wire running through it. So basically Paul has to open up the end of it and separate out the positive and negative wires to be able to connect to the positive and negative line that he's made with all the panels. So basically the start of this process is exactly the same as with the rest, where he needs to trim the insulation from the wire and cut it back a bit, twist it, and then he needs to insert this into a plug, but this is a different one. It's MC4 plug. So the MC4 connector or plug is one of the most accepted connectors in the world now. It's a connector that's designed to accept 4 to 6 millimeter squared solar cable and is proven to have long-term stability. So Paul's just pulling back the black insulation from the two wires inside and just trimming that off. So every positive wire coming out of the solar panels will be connected to another positive wire coming out of the solar panels via these MC4 plugs. And so every negative wire coming out of the solar panels will be connected together with the negative wire of the next solar panel through these MC4 plugs. I hope that makes sense. So using the wire crimping tool, he's crimping the ferrules securely onto the wire, making sure that the crimp is tight and the wire is well sealed within the ferrule. So the MC4 plug you can put together with your hand, but it requires a tool to disconnect it. So it just helps with preventing any accidental disconnections of the cables. So now he's just doing the heat shrink tubing again. So he'll do this the same again for the red and the black wires for each MC4 connection. So Paul's now putting the wires into the MC4 plugs. And so now he just has to do it with the black wire, and then that end will be done. So he'll do that on both ends to connect the solar panels to each other. So the MC5 plugs fit snugly together, and basically you push them until they lock into place together. So now it's time to put it all together and test it out. So the main electrical wire going into the shed has the Anderson plug on the end of it, and the electrical wire coming from the panels with both the positive and negative wires in it has an Anderson plug to attach to that as well. I'm no electrician, but I've tried to explain it the best way I know how, so I hope you'll forgive my rough description of how it's all connected together. So we just need to put them into the right position to get the most amount of sun. I know that you are having trouble believing right now that everything is gone. We have the power. And this little device tells us how many amps or watts or whatever are going through to the shed. 5.85 amps.
Yeah, on there.
20.61. 16. 119.8 watts.
6 amps.
Me. 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 Who is it, puppy? Amidst the stunning granite boulders that define this landscape, my family and I have embarked on a truly unique journey. I've chosen to live this off-grid lifestyle, far from the hustle and bustle of city life. And as the sun dips beneath the horizon, painting the sky with hues of gold and casting a warm glow over the ageless granite boulders, I invite you to share our extraordinary life, one that's as extraordinary as the natural beauty that surrounds us. Eli's learning to drive and he's just moving the car back. This is more than just off-grid living. It's our family's resilience, resourcefulness, and a deep connection with this magnificent land. Today I would also like to thank and show my respect and acknowledge our First Nations people. We live on their land today, and the rejection of your voice should have never been for others to issue at all.